There'll be food and drink and ghosts, and perhaps even a few murders. You're all invited.
What's going on, everybody? I am Mike Macabre. Welcome to Bump of the Night Studios, where we don't only talk monsters, we make monsters. And if you're new here and or you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. I would super appreciate the support. Once I get to so many subscribers, I'm going to do a free raffle. I am an artist. I make masks. I make bow ties. I make Freddy gloves. I make pillows. I make all kinds of different stuff, you guys, man. So if you love the Boogeyman, and you want to win something Boogeyman related, do yourself a favor and hit the subscribe button. I'll cover shipping and everything, so completely for free. All you got to do is click the button. Give yourself a chance to win something super cool, man. So, thank you guys for the support. If you did hit the button, I super appreciate it, man. I appreciate the support. We appreciate the support here at Bump of the Night Studios, man. And I can talk film all day long, man. So let's start a little community here, you guys. You know what I mean? Let's talk film, man. So, appreciate the support once again. So, on to today's video. So, obviously my favorite genre of movies is horror. But right under that, like if it's 10 out of 10 for horror for me, like thriller movies are like a 9.999. Like I love thrillers almost as much as I love horror. And my favorite subgenre of thriller movies are whodunit movies. Who doesn't love a good whodunit movie, man? They just pull you in, man, and keep your attention, man. My favorite movie of all time is a whodunit movie. So, therefore, my number one on the list is going to be my favorite movie of all time. So, real quick, I want to preface the video by saying some of these movies are a little bit more obscure than others. And so I don't want to spoil them for anybody who hasn't seen them. So don't be worried about spoilers. I am not going to spoil any of these movies for anybody. I'm just going to be giving the basic synopsis for them. So that way, some of these movies that you guys may have not seen, you can go and check out for yourself. So, on to the video, man. Number 10 on the list is The Hateful Eight, man. Directed by Quentin Tarantino. Who doesn't love Quentin Tarantino, man, right? Like, this guy just, I mean, he just makes amazing movies, dude. Like, he has not put out one crappy movie, man. So good, man. So, I know, you know, Django and Pulp Fiction usually get brought up for his number one movies, and rightfully so. They're amazing movies, but The Hateful Eight, in my opinion, is up there with those movies. If you ask me on a certain day, I might tell you that Hateful Eight is actually my favorite Tarantino movie. But it's starring Samuel L. Jackson, Walton Goggins, you know, you got Kurt Russell in there. Fantastic movie, man. It's set in post-Civil War era. And basically, they all get caught in a blizzard. So, they're on the way to a place called Minnie's Haberdashery. And, so when they all show up there, Minnie and Sweet Dave are the owners of the haberdashery. And they are not there. So the wheels in Samuel Jackson's head start turning already, you know. He's like, wait, something, you know, he can smell something fishy in the air, something isn't right. Minnie and Sweet Dave wouldn't not be here, you know. So the movie off rip starts out. You can tell, you can see it in Samuel L. Jackson, in his eyes and the way he's moving, like, hey, something ain't right. And trust me, he's going to get to the bottom to it, you know. Everything Samuel L. Jackson is in is amazing. I mean, seriously. I've not seen one Samuel L. Jackson movie that I did not like. This guy is one of the best actors of all time. Same thing with Kurt Russell. I love Kurt Russell. Walton Goggins is so hilarious in this. So funny, man. But this is a fantastic movie. Yeah, the basic synopsis. So, yeah, they all end up at this haberdashery, which is kind of like a general store back then, you know. They have a little bit of everything. So, 8 different people that are stuck in this haberdashery, man. All kinds of stuff goes on through the movie. But basically, as the movie proceeds, Samuel L. Jackson is narrowing down more and more, you know, trying to figure out what is going on. And that's all I will say about that, because like I said, I don't want to ruin these movies for anybody, just in case you haven't seen it. So number 10 on the list, The Hateful Eight, Quentin Tarantino. If you haven't seen it, you gotta check it out and watch it. Number 9 on the list. Now this movie, it's not a big blockbuster movie, but at the same time, it might not be quite as obscure. It kind of lands somewhere in the middle, I guess you could say. But it's a movie called Taking Lives, starring Angelina Jolie and Ethan Hawke. And man, this is a lot of these movies on this list. Of course, all of them I have seen, but they're so good that thriller movies that are so good that even though you know the twists and turns, like you still watch it because the movie's just that good. Well, most of the movies on these lists are, if not all of them, are that way. But this is one of those to where every once in a while, even though I know what's going to happen, I still pop it in because it's just that good, man. Ethan Hawke, Angelina Jolie are both fantastic in it, man. I feel like Ethan Hawke doesn't get enough props for being one of the best actors, because there's no doubt in my mind that he is, man. Ethan Hawke is fantastic, and he's fantastic in this movie as well. So Angelina Jolie plays a detective, and she's trying to find the serial killer, and the serial killer is basically killing people and taking their identities. That's why the title of the movie is called Taking Lives. And Ethan Hawke ends up being an almost victim of this serial killer. So while Angelina Jolie is searching and trying to find this killer, she's also at the same time trying to protect Ethan Hawke. And I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to give away anything else. If you guys haven't seen this movie, do yourself a favor, check it out. You've got to watch it. Number 8 on the list is probably more of a blockbuster movie. Definitely a big movie. Most of you guys probably have seen this, but it's a movie called Primal Fear, and it's starring Edward Norton and Richard Gere. Man, Edward Norton is one of my favorite actors, if not my favorite. He's definitely top 3, man. I love Edward Norton, man. He is another guy. I mean, he gets the credit, but you know what I mean. But maybe not quite as much credit as he does deserve, man. He's just a powerhouse of an actor, man. I love Edward Norton. I love everything that this guy is in, and this is another one of those. There was something about the 90s. I don't know what it was, but you know how the 80s is known for all of our favorite horror, Freddy and all that good stuff? The 90s was it was like the decade for thriller movies and suspense movies, man. There's quite a few movies on this list that are from the 90s, man. And this is another one of those 90s suspense thrillers that is just so very, very good. So Edward Norton plays like a super sweet, super innocent, he's a church boy, and the head deacon of the church he attends ends up being brutally murdered. I believe he's stabbed over 50 sometimes. But very, very brutal, very, very terrible, and Edward Norton ends up getting arrested for the murder. So Richard Gere, who's like a huge big-time attorney in the movie, ends up taking on his case pro bono because he firmly believes in his heart that Edward Norton is a nice kid, and he's innocent of this crime. So the movie goes on from there, definitely got that classic, whodunit, Richard Gere and his team of private investigators are trying to find out the story, find out who really did this and all that. And at the same time, it's a really good courtroom drama as well. Who doesn't love a good courtroom drama? And yeah, absolutely fantastic movie. I'm sure you've seen it, but if you haven't seen Primal Fear, man, you have to check it out, man. Such a good movie. Moving on to number 7. Now, this movie is a little bit more obscure than some of the others. I'm sure some of you have seen it, but there might be a handful of you guys that haven't seen this movie, and it's a movie called The Fourth Floor. It's got Juliette Lewis, William Hurt. Man, this movie, it's got Shelley Duvall in it, man. Who doesn't love Shelley Duvall, man? I love her so much, man. I love everything she's in. She's just a gem of a person. Such a sweet, sweet lady, man. I remember her from The Shining from when I was a kid, and also Shelley Duvall had that, show about bedtime stories. I don't know if you guys remember. Guys, let me know in the comments if you remember Shelley Duvall's bedtime stories. I might be butchering the title, but she had a show basically about kids' stories, man. Something like nursery theater, something like that, man. But I love Shelley Duvall, man. She's only got kind of a small part in this movie, but I I had to go off on a little tangent there about Shelley Duvall. I just love her so much, man. I think she's fantastic. But basically, the basic synopsis of the movie: Juliette Lewis, her aunt, ends up passing away, and she owned a really nice apartment in New York. So Juliette Lewis inherits this apartment and decides to move into the apartment. And as she moves in, there's it's like a 90-some-year-old lady that lives below her. And as she's moving in, she's hanging her stuff up. She's putting her furniture here and there. And this lady's banging on the ceiling. Obviously, she's super irritated about all the noise that Juliette Lewis is making. So as the movie goes on, it progresses to way worse than just banging on the ceiling. Like, this lady who lives below her starts straight up tormenting her. I mean, it gets crazy, put it that way. I don't want to give away too much, but that's pretty much the premise of the movie. It does have its twists and turns and everything. Man, it's such a good suspense movie. I don't know why this movie doesn't get talked about more. Like, this movie is so good, man. Even though, like I said, one of them movies, I know the twists and turns, I still end up popping this in and watching it every once in a while. Such a good movie. It's got that dark tone throughout it, you know what I mean? To where most of it's, filmed inside this apartment building. I love movies like that are like filmed in primarily one spot, man. They always end up so eerie and dark, and this is one of those movies. Another one of those 90s thrillers movies that's fantastic, man. If you guys haven't seen The Fourth Floor, I believe you can watch it for free on Tubi right now, man. So but if you guys haven't seen it, you've got to check this one out. Juliette Lewis, The Fourth Floor. Do yourself a favor and watch it. So the next movie on this list is another one that might be a little bit more obscure and maybe not everybody's seen. And it's a movie called True Crime. And it's starring Alicia Silverstone and Kevin Dillon. And really good movie. I love this movie, man. This movie is so nostalgic to me because some of my best memories of all time are going to the video store with my mom to rent movies, man. It kind of makes me sad in my heart that my son won't ever get to experience that, because that's just some of my best memories. I loved going to rent movies with my mom, like, my mom is a very important person in my life, and, she raised me on her own. Strong woman. I love my mom, and these are some of my best memories. So a lot of these movies on this list are nostalgic for me, and True Crime, just like Fourth Floor was, True Crime is one of those movies that my mom and I rented back in the day. And, man, just such a good movie, man. Starring Alicia Silverstone, Kevin Dillon. And Alicia Silverstone, basic synopsis, her father was a cop, and he passed away. And I believe she's about, she's playing a 16-year-old in the movie. Kevin Dillon plays one of the cops in the movie. And so there's murders happening in the town, and Alicia Silverstone, is doing her own little investigation, trying to find out who did it. And the police captain, who knew Alicia Silverstone's dad, is scolding her to cut it out and let the cops do their job, all that good stuff. Kind of a father figure to her since her father passed and he knew her dad, But, of course, she doesn't listen. And that's the basic synopsis for the movie, is that, she's dedicated to finding out who is doing these murders. And, Kevin Dillon, his character, like I said, he's one of the cops. He's kind of helping her along the way through this. Really, really good movie. Really good twists and turns. I'm telling you guys, if you have not seen True Crime, check this movie out. You won't regret it. You have got to give this a watch. True Crime is number 6 on the list. Number 5. This one is another one that's maybe kind of in the middle. It's not a huge blockbuster movie, but maybe it's not super obscure, but I'm sure there are quite a few people who probably haven't seen this movie either. Again, another one of those amazing 90s suspense thrillers, but this is a movie called The Vanishing with Kiefer Sutherland, Jeff Bridges, Sandra Bullock. So, basic synopsis. This is another movie that my mom and I went to rent, back in the day. So it has that, nostalgic feel for me. I love this movie so much. This is not only one of my favorite whodunits, it's one of my favorite thriller movies of all time. And so basically, Kiefer Sutherland and Sandra Bullock, they're on a road trip. And that's how the movie starts out. They're driving, and they get in a little quarrel, nothing major, no big argument or everything, but they're kind of, snipping back and forth at each other. They end up pulling up at a gas station, and they do make up. They apologize to each other. So Sandra Bullock goes in the gas station to get snacks, whatever, whatnot, while Kiefer Sutherland pumps the gas. And a few minutes goes by, and she doesn't come out. So Kiefer Sutherland is, he goes into the gas station to see what's going on, and he can't find her anywhere. And nobody's seen her, nobody knows what happens, and he's super stressed out, calls the police, all that good stuff. So then the movie moves on to years later, and he's like scruffy, man, got a beard, his clothes are all dirty. So, like, this situation, he never found her. This situation completely ruined his whole life. How someone you can love with all your heart can just vanish in a split second, man. I mean, those of us out here, who love your partner, you don't even want to think about how tragic that is, So it broke his heart so bad. He's in bad shape. So basically he has dedicated his whole life to trying to find out where she is and or what happened to her. And that's the basic premise of the movie, is him, trying to find out what has happened to her. And it gets good. There are some twists and turns, and it gets dark. And this is an absolutely wonderful movie. One of the best, not just whodunit, but one of the best thriller movies, period, of all time. If you have not seen The Vanishing, do yourself a favor and watch it. It's such a good movie. Number 4 on this list is a movie that most of us have seen. You've probably seen it. If you haven't, I'm not sure, what box you're living in. But number 4 is a movie called Seven, starring Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman. This is not only one of my favorite whodunits, it's one of my favorite movies, period, of all time. I love David Fincher, man. He is my favorite director, and he always will be. This guy just knows how to make a movie, man. All of his movies are good. All of them. Gone Girl, Fight Club, Zodiac. The list goes on, man. This guy, every one of his movies are just so beautifully filmed, and they all have that, like, dark tone, kind of rainy, But I love Seven, man. Seven is such a good movie, man. And, of course, basic synopsis for it. Brad Pitt is the new detective in town. Morgan Freeman is the experienced detective. And these crazy ritualistic type murders are happening according to the 7 deadly sins. So, these two are trying to find out the culprit, who's doing these murders. And, that's the basic premise of the movie. This movie is a little bit different than some other whodunits because it kind of has that twist in the middle. I'm not going to give it away for those who may not have seen Seven. Hey, maybe somebody out there hasn't seen it. But you guys absolutely have to check this out, man. David Fincher, like I said, is my favorite director and always will be. His movies are so beautifully filmed and so very highly intelligent and well thought out. You could just tell that David Fincher loves cinema and appreciates cinema, and he works really, really hard to put out a quality film every time he puts out a film, man. This guy is the man. If you have not seen Seven, you have to check it out. All right. Moving on to the top 3. Number 3 on the list is Rear Window. Come on, we couldn't do a top 10 whodunits without including Hitchcock on the list, man. Come on now. When I first actually was writing movies down, my favorite whodunits to do this video, there was like 6 different Hitchcock movies on the list, but I had to narrow it down to my favorite one because this entire list would have been almost Hitchcock if I would have shows all those movies. So what I'll probably do is a whole separate movie of the top 10 best Hitchcock films, because if I would have went with all those movies, 80% of this list would have been Hitchcock films, and I wanted it to be a little bit more spread out. But what is there not to Alfred Hitchcock? I mean, he's the master of suspense. He's the best. You know what I mean? And Rear Window, for those who have not seen it, is such a beautiful movie. You guys know, like, all the, you see in movies where someone's, like, looking out their window across the street and they can see what this person's doing in that apartment, in that house, in this apartment, in that apartment. That all started with Hitchcock. and it all stemmed from this movie. So anytime you see shots like that in movies, it stemmed from Alfred Hitchcock, from Rear Window, man. So the main character, and I can't believe his name is slipping my mind right now, but he's a fantastic actor. Grace Kelly plays his wife, but he broke his leg, so he's stuck in his apartment, and he sees one of his neighbors across the street. Him and his wife are like arguing with each other, and then all of a sudden, like, silence. So in his head, he's like, "Oh my God, did this guy just murder his wife?" So the whole movie is him in his apartment. And once again, another one of those movies that like takes place in one place. You know what I mean? Takes place in his apartment. And he's constantly looking at this guy's apartment from across the street. Like I said, he broke his leg, so he's stuck in the house, and he's trying to find out whether this guy did this or not, and he just becomes completely consumed with it, because he was sitting there just bored out of his mind, not knowing what to do with his life since his leg was broke, and now this has become his life, is trying to find out, whether this guy killed his wife or not. And I don't want to give anything away. Fantastic movie. It's Hitchcock. I mean, come on now. But amazing movie. Very influential movie. Like I said, so many movies have taken and done that themselves, to where you have that scene where somebody's looking across the street looking to see, there's so many different movies like, oh, did my neighbor just kill somebody type movies. All that started with Hitchcock, started with this movie Rear Window. If you have not seen Rear Window, oh my God, you have to see it. You have to check this one out. So number 2 on the list, man. And I did say it, David Fincher is my favorite director, but Zodiac is number 2 on this list. This is another one of those movies that is not only one of my favorite whodunit movies, it's one of my favorite movies, period. This movie is an absolutely wonderfully shot movie. It's so beautiful, man. I'm always enamored every time I watch it by the cinematography of this movie, man. They just did such a good job. Jake Gyllenhaal, another one, top 3 actors to me. I think he's one of the best actors to ever do it, man. Everything he is in is amazing. And basic synopsis, he's playing a character in real life. The movie Zodiac is based on the book Zodiac, written by Robert Graysmith, who was a cartoonist for the San Francisco Chronicle. So Jake Gyllenhaal is playing his character, and Robert Downey Jr. is playing his co-worker at the newspaper. And, most of us, we know the story of Zodiac, it's that story, and them trying to, Robert Graysmith becomes completely enamored with trying to figure out who the Zodiac is, man. And, the movie, goes through the trials and tribulations of what happened in real life, And it's even though the movie's like almost 3 hours, I still watch it all the time, man. It's so good. It's just, there's not enough good things I can say about David Fincher, man. This guy just knows how to make a film, man. Every film he does is fantastic. This is one of David Fincher's best films, and that's saying something, because, I mean, this guy has made so many darn good movies. But yes, Zodiac, David Fincher, if you haven't seen it, you've got to check this one out. Okay, so we're down to the nitty gritty here. Number 1 on the list, my favorite whodunit of all time, just so happens to simultaneously be my favorite movie of all time. Now, there's probably quite a few people that have not seen this movie. And if you haven't, oh my goodness, you have to check this movie out. It is a movie, and it is called Laura from 1944. It's starring Dana Andrews and Vincent Price and Gene Tierney, and directed by Otto Preminger. Yeah, like, there's just, I'm almost speechless. There's just not enough good things I could say about this movie. It's my favorite movie of all time, but it's in black and white. And it's one of those classic detective stories. Dana Andrews plays that like slick detective, you know what I mean? I loved the era back then because, like, women dressed so elegantly and beautiful, all the beautiful dresses with the hat to match, and didn't matter what a woman did in life. Like, she wore a beautiful dress. And men, it didn't matter what they did in life. They wore a nice suit. And they talked a certain way, and they moved a certain way. There's just something about the feel of the 40s and the 50s that I really, really love, man. And this movie shows all that, you know. But yeah, basic synopsis. Dana Andrews is playing a detective, and there's a very stunningly beautiful woman played by Gene Tierney. Her name is Laura, and she was brutally murdered, shot with a shotgun in her apartment. And Dana Andrews' character is trying to find the murderer in the movie. And don't want to give away too much, because anybody who hasn't seen this movie, please, please take the time, sit down and watch this movie. I promise you, you will not regret it. So yeah, that's the basic movie. Is Dana Andrews is trying to find out who committed this murder. It's like a classic. It's like the quintessential whodunit movie, man. Otto Preminger was a huge director back in the day, and in my opinion, he has so many good movies, but this is his best movie. This is my favorite movie of all time. It's got Vincent Price in it, who's my favorite actor of all time. Who doesn't love Vincent Price, man? That guy has the best voice of all time, man. Seriously. And everything he is in is gold. I love every single Vincent Price movie I've ever seen, from the small, low-budget ones to the huge, big, you know, movies he was in. He's just fantastic and amazing, and I love Vincent Price so much, and I love Dana Andrews so much. He's just perfect for the role of like a slick talking detective, you know what I mean? And Gene Tierney, like she's just so elegantly beautiful. So this is one of those movies. There's like a recipe for a perfect movie, you know what I mean? And there's just a few elements to make a perfect movie. Perfect cast, you know, like the people who played their roles. Like, there couldn't have been anybody better to play their roles. Kind of like Freddy Krueger for Robert Englund, you know, or Tony Todd for Candyman, you know. Just nobody could have done that role better than them, you know. That's part of an ingredient of a perfect movie, you know. And that's how Laura is. Everybody's character is just perfectly cast. The score is beautiful. The music is beautiful. It's filmed beautifully. The story's perfect. You know, this is, I don't care what anybody says, this is an absolutely perfect movie. If you guys have not seen Laura, please take the time to check out Laura and let me know how you feel about it. Alright, that's going to be it for today's video, you guys. Super appreciate the support and everybody watching. How do you guys feel about the list? Do you agree with the list? Do you disagree with the list? Do you feel like I missed out on some movies? Let me know how you feel in the comments. Don't kill me if your favorite whodunit wasn't in there. Trust me, it took me a while to narrow these movies down to a top 10. So I'm sure that some of the movies that you guys might feel that should be on the list, probably I did have written down, but just maybe I might have either or that, or maybe I haven't seen it, you know, or I just like some of these movies just a tidbit more than some of the others. This was not an easy list to make, but let me know in the comments how you guys feel. Do you love whodunit movies? Which ones are your favorite whodunit movies? And have you guys seen the movie Laura? If you haven't, please check it out and come back to this video. Let me know in the comment section how you feel about it and whether you liked it or not, because it is my all-time favorite movie. I'm very passionate about it. You guys have to check out the movie Laura. Appreciate you guys watching. Till next time, Bump in the Night Studios signing out. You guys take care.
There'll be food and drink and ghosts, and perhaps even a few murders. You're all invited.